Have you ever wanted to play The Sims, but you didn't because you specifically wanted to be an agent? Or maybe you've wanted to recreate that FBI open up meme, but you lack the skills? Well, if that's the case, I'm not sure if that second question will get answered. That was completely irrelevant. I just said that as an excuse to use that clip in this video, but I can at least talk about what's in my hand. MySims Agents. This game may seem kinda silly at first glance, but the further I've played this, I had one question in my head. Is this a hidden gem? Let me not get too far ahead of myself. I'll fill you in if you're not familiar. This is part of the MySims series that was primarily released on the DS and Wii. So trust me, this won't be the last time you see me talk about these games. This particular release involves being a secret agent and solving multiple cases that get us closer and closer to figuring out the villain behind it all. This starts off with Buddy, the main side character in the game, as an older man, recounting his life as a secret agent through comics he made based on his life, and mentions a friend. And after going through this game's version of a meme maker, I find out that I'm the friend. Apparently, our journey begins in some dude's pizza shop by the name of Gino, and here of all places is where we solve local mysteries. A girl named Poppy runs in and claims her dog was stolen, so I guess that's the first mystery we tackle. Walking next door, we are immediately met with what will become the game's main villain, Morcubus. But of course, I call him Morbius instead. Why wouldn't I? Now we have to figure out, does this dog belong to Poppy or Morbius? And this is what sets up what will be a consistent structure throughout the game, solving mysteries by piecing together different clues. In fact, this at its core is what the entire game is about. Makes sense for a game called MySims Agents. With that I think being enough of an intro, let me go through how this game is structured, and then I'll talk more in depth. There are 6 maps throughout the game, with this downtown area being the first. Each section has its own set of mysteries that all tie into figuring out one thing. What the hell is Morbius doing? Like, have you seen that dude? He looks evil as shit. Each mystery you solve along the way has a certain amount of clues you need to find before concluding with the final answer, and is indicated with this menu that'll pop up every time a clue is found. Also, multiple mysteries can occur at the same time, but again, they all tie into the overarching goal of taking down Morbius. To gather these clues, we have multiple tools at our disposal. To start, we have a magnifying glass that helps us find footprints on the ground, a crowbar that allows us to open things I can't otherwise, such as boxes, and a wrench which can be used for salvaging and combining varying electronic parts. These tools will also get upgraded as things progress, but I'll get back to that. Now that you know the basics, let's talk about the first section of this game. I'll just call it Downtown. Gathering enough clues, I piece together that this dog does indeed belong to Poppy. This majorly upsets Morbius, and to prove he's my new enemy, he talks like Neville from iCarly. Not too long after, we find out the mayor of this town is perhaps also an enemy of ours, as he's not only corrupt, but has ties to Morbius. And after finding this out, we are informed I now have my own secret agent headquarters. Not gonna question that, but this is where we meet Evelyn. Wrapping up this area, we find out the mayor is responsible for a stolen journal of Evelyn's, and that's because Morbius was looking for someone her dad worked with, by the initials of PW. This will very shortly pop up again. Next up is what is some kind of ski resort, and we immediately run into a few characters. BB, who is looking for her lost friend Preston, and 2 other agents, Vic and Rosalind. In search of Preston, we tread into the snow, and eventually stumble into this cave. And, well, there's a yeti here. We find this yeti is the PW previously mentioned. Let's call him by his first name, Paul. He was accidentally turned into such thanks to a crown dubbed the Crown of Nightmares. He worked on this with Morbius and other assistants, and after the incident, they fought over what to do with it, and lost the item. And that's what Morbius seems to currently be in search of. Preston was later found, but I'll gloss over most of his story, because all you need to know is that he was a CEO who was trying to tank the resort's business, just so he could buy the land. So basically, he's a waste of space. While he was lost, he tried to destroy the resort, and while he was quote-unquote lost, he tried to destroy the resort and pin it on Paul, but his pathetic costume caught on camera ruined that. Let's just focus on the character that matters here. Evelyn confirms this Paul did work with her now disappeared father, and now everyone is eager to find out more about this nightmare crown. Getting back to headquarters, Agent Walker is nice enough to upgrade a couple of our weapons. The crowbar is now a F-space manipulator, and our wrench is now a techno tool. They do the same as the previous, but will also allow us to pick locks. Now it's time for the industrial district. And there are a handful of characters here, so let me run through this quickly. We immediately meet Old Gabby and Barney Cull in this junkyard, and as nice as they may be, they aren't terribly relevant to the plot here. The most important by far is Dr. F, who was previously a college roommate of Paul's and has this robot named Tobor. After informing him about Morbius and the Crown of Nightmares, he cancels everything that he and his assistant Alexa are doing and puts all of their focus into this crown. So basically, we gained a giant ally. He also upgrades our magnifying glass to the Detector. Not too creative of a name, but I'll take his word on it being an upgrade. There is also DJ Candy and her crew, and she informs us of irregular sounds across the district. And that's how I introduce the final set of people for this area. Brandy and Esma work for Morbius and are planting trees nearby for what on surface level is innocent reasons. Over time, we find out that these two were secretly mining something called Destinite, and I guess when exposed to the radio towers above DJ Candy, it turns into something that is called Fortunite, the key ingredient to making the Crown of Nightmares. Of course, I just called this Fortnite, cause again, like why wouldn't I? Getting to the bottom of this, we scan the frequencies of the towers responsible for it, and wouldn't you know, the pair working for Morbius amplified the signal in order for this to happen. Of course he's in on this. He's trying to make his own Fortnite gems to recreate the crown. Sorry, I can't say that with a straight face. But before moving on, I also want to quickly rant about a couple different reoccurring required sections in the game. The first is what I would dub a mechanical puzzle. You get a specific grouping of supplies, and you're supposed to figure out how it all connects in order to move on. I think at its core, it does get your brain turning a bit, but god, after a certain point, I was spending a ridiculous amount of time on them. In fact, the one I'm showing here took me around 18 minutes to piece together. The second is what I guess I will label science-y looking thing. I know, what a genius name. It's similar to mechanical sections, except instead of moving parts, it's these different cells you have to piece together without any conflicting connections. Some of these I sunk way too much time in. And oh yeah, before going to the next proper section, we have to return back to downtown. Evelyn found a reference to Fortnite in her father's journal, and it cites this dude named Cyrus. But sadly, Jenny, one of our employees, figured out that he died very recently. So recently, in fact, that a dinner party is being held. And his estate apparently houses a very rare gem, presumably of the Fortnite variety. Conveniently, Poppy got invited to this for some reason, so after we scurry around to find where the physical invite went, it's off to the dinner party. Welcome to what I will dub Spooky Mansion, which was owned by that Cyrus dude that just died. And he had a zombie butler named Carl? How does that work? Did Cyrus not become a zombie as well? Moving past that, his niece Zoe is hosting the reading of his will tonight, and pretty quickly it appears that everyone else here is simply here to see if they get some left behind Fortnite crystals. But bad news. The crystal has been shattered, and while everyone is immediately disappointed and has zero interest in being there anymore, we are getting to the bottom of this. For a decent bit, it seems like the zombie butler may be responsible for this, but the real answer? Sit down. Are you ready for it? Zoe replaced the crystal with a fake one, and somehow hypnotized Zombie Carl into breaking it? Okay, first we had the Yeti and the 5G towers, but now this? Apparently, she used the powers of the crystal to see who would inherit the fortune, and she set this whole thing up because she found out it's not her collecting the fortune, but another woman present named Violet. Before leaving, Violet talks with us about the Crown of Nightmares, and we convince her to hand over the Fortnite crystal after we share how much of a dangerous hot ticket item it is right now, and the search continues for that crown. Evelyn tells us the next best place to look for clues is a boardwalk, so time to hit the beach. There are a lot of characters you immediately run into, such as Clara and Taylor here, but that's not who we need to focus on. Dr. F and his robot are once again here to help us out, and his techno tool comes quite handy here with these rocks. It even brings me to the sea monster named Mr. Suckers. This creature also isn't relevant, but I just wanted a reason to say Mr. Suckers. The real thing to talk about here is this hidden cave. Look at all this gear just hiding in here. I eventually fixed together this submarine hiding inside, and completely pinned this to someone I talked to earlier, Yuki. There's talks of a sunken ship around here, and it's pretty easy to suspect that she has something to do with that. In fact, later on, there is also an underwater section where you get to play as Tobor and explore the sunken ship. The goal is to figure out what this ship is hiding in it before Yuki can. Eventually, it finds a map that shows the location of a hidden temple. When bringing it back up, they find writing that proves this has something to do with the crown. So that means next up is the final section of the game, the Jungle Temple. We immediately meet with Lindsay, someone who wants to help us search for further leads. Pretty quickly, 4 platforms become visible, and each one requires you to find a unique thing to activate it. Once doing it with all 4, the temple can be accessed. So this basically leads to this map being an item hunt. The 4 things needed are a torch that we get Evelyn to hold, a cup that Lindsay helps us with, a lemur named Magellan, and a horn that we get Buddy to play. All of this leads us to the final section of the game, the actual temple. Entering inside, we meet Mike, and while he may not be fully there mentally, he does lead us to what is a series of puzzles. Meeting with Mike once more, I eventually reach a chest with what Mike says is the key to the Nightmare Crown. And would you look at that? The crown has been here the entire time. And once we report this to Evelyn, we find out this Mike is her dad. This is where he's been. So everyone decides to leave the temple, and perfect timing. Our boy Morbius is here, and why did I give the crown to him so easily? Either way, we're all upset about this, and Morbius starts to talk about how he basically made us do his own dirty work, and then starts to activate the crown. Panic ensues, and Evelyn tackles him to the ground, but it's too late. A portal had already opened, and it sent both of them to the realm of nightmares. So basically, Evelyn did a major sacrifice just to save everyone else. After this concludes, we all agree that even if it's not immediate, we will do our best to find a way to bring her back home someday. So then we return back to the headquarters, and this is what finally activates the credits. So that was MySims Agents, and that ties me back into the question, is this game a hidden gem? To be fully blunt about it, yes, I think it is. Well yes, at its core, it's a silly kids game. It has a lot of charm, and I was impressed with how much detail was housed within the game. There's so many little things to explore. I really enjoyed the tiniest of touches that may have not advanced the plot in any meaningful way, but still made it a fleshed out experience. One of my favorites is probably from the first map, where you can simply bake your own pizza at Gino's. Stuff like that gives an otherwise silly detective game extra life. I ultimately rated this game a 6 out of 10, and you may ask, but if you're praising it so much, why not an even higher rating? And well, like I said, at its core, it's still a basic kids mystery game, and pretty quickly, you're able to piece together reoccurring gameplay loops such as picking locks, finding footprints, and all of that good stuff. But hey, considering it is a repetitive game in some ways, they did a great job at covering that up. Because of that, I also gave the difficulty of 3, definitely something you can turn your brain off a bit at times, but you still do need to have some basic puzzle skills. I admittedly did get stuck here for a bit on a few of them, but in the end, you can usually find your way forward. So yeah, I 100% recommend this game, and I think it works well for the Wii. I wish more kids titles on this platform had this much personality. In fact, there was supposed to be a sequel to this, but it was immediately scrapped, and that's an absolute shame. But at least in 2023, a designer for it leaked the story online, so there's that at least. Anyways, that's enough of my rambles today. This game makes me pretty excited for the other entries in the series, but until then, that's all I have for today, so thanks for watching.